Bard on the Plains podcast with Mike McPeek. It's about stories, mine and yours.
As I write and record this, I'm sitting in my office surrounded by all my stuff. I have my TV with the Xbox, Nvidia Shield, and Nintendo Switch hooked to it. I have my Linux, Windows, and Mac computers around me, along with an assortment of tablets and other electronic doodads. I also have my Edison Amberola I inherited from my grandparents, not to mention all the CDs, movies, and books I have lying around. Am I bragging? Yes, but I'm also trying to make a point. I have no shortage of stuff to keep me entertained. My teenage self would have his mind blown. I had a not quite red, not quite pink AM radio in my room. This was my link to the outside world and the place I would discover and fine-tune my musical tastes. For those of you who don't know, the cool thing about AM radio is that the signal can bounce off the ionosphere and travel a long distance. I would lay in my bed at night and listen to stations from all over the country. The problem with that radio was that it had a volume control that could fluctuate a great deal. You might have it set to a tolerable level and it would be fine for a while, and then suddenly it would increase in loudness. I would have to play the radio at night to cover up the sounds of a noisy old farmhouse. To be honest, I watched too many B horror movies on Sunday afternoon and had a very active and vivid imagination, was sure something was going to get me at night. I mean, I was the only one asleep upstairs in this big old house. I could get snatched in the middle of the night and my folks would never know. Anyway, back to the radio. With an erratic loudness, it might suddenly get very loud in the middle of the night. I didn't always want to mess with it, but it would get loud enough that Dad would yell at me to turn it down. Eventually, I saved some money and bought a AM/FM radio. Now, FM was cool. It didn't have the range that AM did, but the sound was better. The problem with AM is it would pick up any electrical disturbance. Get too close to an electric fence and it would pick up the pulse of that. An engine without proper insulation on the spark plugs and you would hear it. And good luck trying to listen during a lightning storm. FM didn't have any of these problems. And since it was a new format, there was some experimentation going on that the stuffy AM stations couldn't match. This radio had a battery, so I could go mobile and I wasn't tied to an outlet. I loved that radio. But even with all that, I wanted more. I wanted to be able to hear the songs when I wanted. We had a cassette recorder that I would put next to the radio and record the song when it came on. You wouldn't get the whole song, the DJ would probably still be talking, and the sound quality sucked, but it seemed like freedom. And I guess looking back, it was my first attempts at piracy. But I did try to be legit and buy music. The first album I bought was either Boston's debut album, Boston, or Kansas's Point of No Return. I can't remember. It was on a 8-track. I thought 8-track was superior to cassette because you never had to flip the tape over to continue listening to the music. It would play until you switched tapes. What I didn't realize till later was that it had issues. Sometimes the tape would wander and you'd hear two songs at once, or it would drag because the wheel that drove the tape didn't make good contact, and you had to wedge something between the tape and the player to force it over enough so that it would play. All of you people listening to MP3s will never know the struggle. At 16, I bought my first car, an Oldsmobile Cutlass S. Looking back, that car was a piece of crap, but at the time I loved it because it meant freedom. And of course, one of the first things I did was install an 8-track player. I was on top of the world. Here I am, a 16-year-old, I have mobility and music. I could drive around with my friends, listen to tunes, and do stupid kid stuff. Life was sweet. Eventually, I upgraded my home stereo setup. I took the money I got from graduation and bought a nice Fisher component system. It had two big speakers, because size does matter. The receiver had AM and FM with inputs to add other equipment. I had an 8-track player and a cassette deck. No phonograph because records aren't made for mobility. Finally, I had brought all my music options together in one package. At some point, I got a dual cassette deck so I could duplicate tapes. I would borrow a friend's tape, record it onto a blank one. So my piracy continued, but I justified it by saying that we had little money and I really wasn't hurting anyone. I kept the system around for a long time until it became old and obsolete. I do miss it just for the nostalgia and the memories. Things stayed pretty much the same for quite a while. We bought our Windstar van and that had a built-in stereo system. No more mounting a tape deck under the dash, trying to run wires and figure out where to mount speakers. It was done for me, better than I could have done it. and it sounded better. At some point, CDs came along. Sadly, I don't remember when I bought my first CD or what it was, but I do remember it was a game changer for me. The continuous play of 8-track, sound quality better than cassettes, and the ability to jump to whatever track you wanted just like a record player. Life was sweet. Eventually, I started to hear about these things called MP3s, a way to listen to music that took up no physical space except for where they were stored. You could add more music, it wouldn't take up any more space. They were easy to store and easy to transfer. You could burn them to a CD in whatever order you wanted. The new mixtape. I made a few mixtapes or compilation tapes so that I could hear only the songs I wanted in the order I wanted. But it was time consuming. You had to find the song on the tape, make sure your other tape was ready to go, press play and record simultaneously, move to the next song or swap tapes, and repeat the process. With MP3s, you made a playlist in your CD software, dropped in a blank CD, hit the button and say, "Burn, baby, burn." As I said earlier, they are easily transferred. So I started to hear about this thing called Napster. For those of you who never heard of this was a song sharing program. You would download this program, point it at your music collection, and let it run. Other people would do the same thing. Then you could look to see what songs were being shared by other people and download them. The songs were of varying quality. Some were good and others were bad transfers from old tapes. They were also a good way to spread viruses and malware. Oh yeah, and they were massively illegal. At the time, though, we justified it by saying it's no different than borrowing a tape from a friend. This was at the time we only had dial-up, so it was slow. I mean slow as in getting run over by a glacier slow. And since I was hooked up to the phone line, I couldn't leave it run all the time because it would tie up the phone. So I would dial up, log in, search for the music I wanted, and sit patiently and watch each song download one by one. It was slow and painful, but I was getting the music I wanted. But eventually all good things come to an end. People were being fined for illegally downloading, and Napster was sued and changed their business model to something more legit. So I had a way to get the music I wanted and play it in whatever order I wanted, but now I had a mobility problem. The only way I could listen to them was on the computer or burn them to a CD. I wanted to be able to listen to my music on the go. Way back when, during the days of cassette, I had a Walkman-like device because I couldn't afford a real Walkman. It was okay, but the batteries would start to get weak after a while, after playing it for a while, and the music would start to slow down, which drove me crazy. I had a portable radio, but again, you were at the mercy of DJs. I tried a portable CD player, but they were bulky for what I wanted to do. Eventually, portable MP3 players came out, and I bought some. The first ones operated on AA or AAA batteries and had a limited storage, so you had to switch your music out if you wanted variety. I don't remember most of them, but the one I really liked was made by Arcos. The Arcos 5 Internet Tablet 250 gigabyte. It had a screen so you could also download videos and watch them. You could interact with it, make different playlists, download more music. It's also a device I started to listen to podcasts on. I could even download ebooks on it to read. It was my all-in-one portable entertainment center. It was about the size of 2 decks of cards side by side. By today's standards, it's big, bulky, and slow. But I do miss it, though. I gave it to my son and the hard drive died. He may still have it and the hard drive could probably be replaced, but I don't have the patience to do it. But at the time, I could carry it around while at work and listen to music and podcasts. I had to have headphones that run down to it, so there was a wire to get tangled up with, but it was still liberating. All this while, cell phones were advancing to the point where an MP3 player became redundant. And with the creation of Bluetooth technology, headphones became wireless. I finally had it all, and you'd think I'd be happy. You'd be wrong. The problem with headphones at work was that they would block the sound, so if somebody wanted to talk to me, I had to pull them out so I could hear them. I finally found the solution for that: bone conducting headphones. They have little pads that sit in front of your ears and transmit the sound through your skin directly into your inner ear. The sound quality isn't absolutely perfect, but the convenience is great. And I do carry around some earbuds for the times when I'm alone and want great quality sound. At this point, I should be happy, but there was still one piece missing: variety. I like listening to new music, but buying different albums to discover new music can get expensive fast. That's why I was very happy when music streaming services came along. For one thing, one flat monthly fee, you had the whole world at your fingertips, all streamed to your phone. No managing music files. Have I quit buying music? No, I'm a firm believer in buying the music you like. It helps support the artist more than streaming does, and it's yours to keep. Streaming music is dependent upon deals between artists and streaming companies. Not all of them are everywhere. As of right now, you can only stream Garth Brooks on Amazon Music, and Meatloaf's album Bat Outta Hell 3 isn't available anywhere because of legal issues. So I do buy what I like, either in MP3 format or CDs, and rip them, and keep them on a Plex server I maintain. I can play music on many devices and stream to my phone anywhere I can get an internet connection. And now I'm at the point where I can control the playback from my smartwatch. No more pulling out my phone to change to the next song. Just flick my wrist, push a button on the screen. Is that angels singing from on high? Am I finally satisfied? Maybe, but I doubt it. I am sure there's some solution out there for a problem I haven't realized that I have. Maybe downloading music directly into my brain so I can skip the device completely. Or maybe some VR technology that I can finally allow me to be on stage and be the rock god I always knew I was, even though I can't carry a tune in a basket or play an instrument to save my life. But still, the teenager in me who played a finicky radio all night long to hide the sounds of imagined mortal terrors in a creaky old South Dakota farmhouse is sitting here going, way cool, man. If you like listening to me talk about how I listen to music, maybe you'd like to hear me talk about the music itself. If so, go have a listen to my Bard on the Playlist podcast, where I put together a playlist and say a little about the song or why I like it. You can find it at bardsplaylist.com. If you like this episode, please leave a review on the podcast service of your choice, and please tell your friends and family about it. Or if you want to comment, leave a voice message at anchor.fm/bardontheplains/message. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at bardontheplains or on Facebook at facebook.com/bardontheplains. If you want to email me, you can send it to bardontheplains@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit bardontheplains.com for show notes and more information. If you want to find out what other podcasts I do, please go to McPeek Podcasting.com. That's McPeek with 2 E's. To see the other shows I am doing. My most recent show is Bard on the Playlist. There I play songs and tell stories based on them. And if you want to see the other projects I'm working on, such as photography and blogging, head over to mike-mcpeak.com to check it out. I thank you for listening and hope you have a story of your own to tell.